What's going on YouTube? RDAPDAN here, Federal Prison Time Consulting. Happy Monday to everybody. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Give you guys a few moments to join us, and then we're going to talk a little bit about this government shutdown and how it's affecting staff and inmates alike. So give you guys a few minutes to get ready for that. What did you guys all do this weekend? Anybody do anything good? Staying out of trouble? And if you haven't done so, take a moment, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. All you got to do is tap the subscribe button and also text the word YouTube to 76626. Put yourself on our notification text list and make sure you share, like. We're on everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, and LinkedIn as well. So come find us. Who do we got with us? We got Alberta, Sherry Duke, Todd, San Judas, Tina, Bill Smith, Cherry Camp, Wrong Thigpen, Juan Carlos. What's up, Juan? Free Jesse Tang. Juan, I have no idea where Jesse Tang is, even if that was his real name. I haven't heard from him in months and months and months. But we are going to talk about this. I saw who posted in here. Bill Smith, if inmates are laughing, don't feed them. So we're going to talk about this a little bit. I really want to get your guys' feedback on this because this is and actually the story we're talking about today, as you can see in the thumbnail and the picture on the screen. Can I point to it? Can you guys see if I point? It's so weird pointing. Right there, right there. Joe Rojas, union president. This is at Coleman. This is where actually I did my prison time, at Coleman Federal Prison. Joe Rojas is the union president, but he also works as a guard at the prison. So I'm sure he's dealing with a lot of this firsthand. What's going on, Robbie? So I put a pension fund meeting together. We'll be offering paycheck advances so that these people can live. The best part, we're only taking 30 minutes. So Bill wants to know if inmates are really eating steak and shrimp. Okay, let's kind of jump into this a little bit. We've got 20 some odd people in the room. Also, guys, remember, I should have posted this. We have, before I get started, if anybody does want to help, we have one of our clients, Sean Cowgill, which a few of you have seen him in the past. We just received an email from him, and I'll actually, maybe I'll have CJ pull up the email out of Core Links, copy it, and post it into the description of this video. He's getting ready to go to the halfway house, and he just found out that he cannot go to the halfway house until he's able to get his Social Security card, birth certificate, and an ID. And as you know, Sean Cowgill doesn't have anybody helping him from the outside. So we send Cowgill a little bit of money here and there, a couple of months. We'll send him a couple of bucks. But this was just sprung on him, so he doesn't have anything put aside for this. He needs somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think, for everything like $50 or $60. If any of you feel like helping out, here is the link where you can donate. I just posted it in the chat. It's also in the description. That's going to go for Sean Cowgill. Anything you want to help, $5, $10, we're going to make sure Sean gets it no matter what. So even if you guys can't help, we're going to take care of it. But we like giving you guys the opportunity to help out.
Got a good comment on here.
What's that?
Got a good comment on here.
Which one?
So Bill Smith said, I used to deliver canteen to a couple of prisons in Wisconsin. Seems like all the optional food they got was a convenience store variety. So somebody's delivered food to prisons.
Well, not to federal prison. That you're not delivering food to a federal prison. They have a contract where they get all their food from. So we also got a comment from Tier Talk. Tier Talk has another channel. He's actually a correctional officer. I apologize. Prison guard. To me, they're guards. That's how I saw them when I was there. But yes, correctional officer, to clarify. So let's jump into this a little bit. First off, are prisoners really eating steak and shrimp and chicken during the holidays? I can't say that they're eating shrimp. I've never seen shrimp. However, at Coleman, we did have a pretty decent menu, specifically during the holidays. We did eat some pretty good chicken. We ate some pretty good steak. I'm not talking like ribeyes or, at best, you might compare it to like maybe a Denny's steak. But the chicken was always decent. You know, the point is the BOP went above and beyond during the holidays to provide pretty decent food, at least at Coleman. It's not the same. Now, even though the Bureau of Prisons has the same menu all through the prison system, doesn't mean it's going to be the same quality of food, prison versus prison. Some prisons spend more on better ingredients, better quality, but the meals are the same. It just may be more of, less of, better quality, less quality. But I can tell you that where I was at Coleman, I was pretty satisfied with the food. But that's not the issue, right? That doesn't change. The food that was ordered, they don't order like the day before. This is all pre-discussed. So I'm sure the food orders, everything were put in well before this government shutdown. So the problem is we have Jessica Kent. What's going on? Jessica Kent also has an amazing channel, fast and upcoming star. She's not just another pretty face. She's got a lot of awesome content to put out as well. So if you haven't checked out Jessica Kent's channel, actually, I think I'm doing something with her later on tonight with her and Bounce Back. Check out her channel. So here's what I want to get into on this. I usually don't take too much of a stance on going brutal on the prison system or picking on correctional officers or COs, just because, look, there's good COs, there's bad COs, there's good inmates, there's bad inmates. But I was just having this debate with CJ a little earlier today. Guards, staff, prison staff, correctional officers are held to a higher standard than inmates are. It's just a simple fact. Inmates are expected. We're presumed to do foolish things in prison. That's why we're in prison. Staff is not expected to go outside of the scope of what they are supposed to do, what they're allowed to do, how they treat us versus how they're supposed to treat us versus how they actually treat us. So this guy, Joe Rojas, who is the union president, his major complaint, and I think I put a quote in here in the description. His quote is, "The inmates are eating like kings and then laughing at us." So right now, prison staff on the BOP side, federal prison staff members, correctional officers, other staff, they're not getting paid right now because government shutdown. So what does that mean? That means they will get paid when the government opens back up and everything goes back to business. However many hours they work, they're going to get their money. When they took these positions, when they agreed to be a correctional officer or work for the federal government, this is part of what you signed up for. You kind of knew what you were going to get. You knew there's an opportunity that the government could shut down. This isn't the first time the government is shut down. However, this is the first time that it's been under such scrutiny because we have a president right now that doesn't really back down from much. When he sets his mind to do something, he's going to push forward until he gets as close to it as possible. Is that good or bad? I'm not here to say that. Do I agree with it? I agree with some points of it. I don't agree with all aspects of it, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about inmates laughing at the staff as the staff working for free, technically for free right now, serving them food. Is this just? Does the staff deserve this? I know a lot of you that haven't been to prison, you may have your own perspective on this, thinking, well, why should they be disrespecting the staff that's working there for free? Here's what I can tell you. I was not a troublemaker in prison. I wasn't out looking to mess with anybody, including staff or other inmates. However, I was harassed on a regular occasion from staff for no reason at all. Now, did they have reason to mess with me because they're so used to inmates acting a fool? I can tell you where I was, a low security prison, a non-threatening prison. I was at the largest prison facility in the United States, Coleman Prison Facility. 2 penitentiaries, a medium and a low, and a camp. Camp was just for the females, low, medium, and the 2 penitentiaries were for men. So I know that the staff probably deals with some more severe type issues when you get up into the higher security. But I can tell you where I was at, and I apologize, my lips are super chapped. Makeup! Oh, he's off today. I forgot. Government holiday. He doesn't work today either. I can tell you that most inmates where I was at were not going out of their way to try the staff. They weren't going out of their way to, basically, they weren't trying to fuck with the staff. But the staff sure as hell had it in for a lot of us all the time. There was and I'll give you guys a quick scenario. And this is not like an isolated incident. This is a very common thing to happen. So an inmate was treated improperly from one of the staff. They came in and did it. They do their normal search where they come through, they look for contraband, stuff like that. And they went into one of the inmate's units, into his little cubicle. And when I say they turned his stuff upside down, his blankets were all on the floor across the unit. They went into his locker. They scoured through his locker, took everything out. His locker was tilted to one side. He had commissary that was ruined, that he spent money for, and really created stress for the inmate that didn't need to do. This guy was not a problem child, never gave the staff any issues, and this is what happened to him. So we were complaining about it in the morning. We weren't complaining to staff. We weren't bringing it to anybody's attention. We were just talking about it amongst ourselves. And one of the staff members, who was a good staff member, her name was she was my DTS in the drug treatment program. I just forgot. Miss Neesmith. Miss Neesmith overheard us, and she's like, "What's going on?" And we're like, "Nothing, nothing." And she heard us. She goes, "No, I heard you say that somebody came in here and like rummaged through your stuff." And we're like, "Well, it was a staff member. We don't want to bring it to anybody's attention because we don't want to deal with any of the repercussions if they decide to act out." She said, "No, they can't treat you like this. That's not fair. I'm going to bring this to somebody's attention." He begged her not to. His name was Al. I can't remember his last name, but he begged her not to. And that night, this was in the morning, that evening, they did a fire drill. Okay, so a fire drill. We probably all remember fire drills in school or maybe at a company you worked for. Everybody's got to go outside. So they did a fire drill only in our unit to get everybody outside. And we had a suspicion they were going in there to do a search, but we thought maybe they got told, somebody told on somebody. Maybe there was a cell phone in the unit, drugs. We thought they were going there for a real reason. So we were outside for like an hour, hour and a half where they do this fire drill where they're inside. And then they let us all back in. Nobody got in trouble. They didn't take anything. But when I tell you it looked like a fucking tornado hit our unit, everybody's stuff was completely just, you didn't know where anything was. And this was 150 people lived in this one unit. Okay, it was basically, if you can picture like a big open bay with cubicles, concrete cubicles spread out through it. 150 guys, usually 2 or 3 man to a cubicle. So we got all these guys. All of our stuff is just scattered fucking everywhere. Everywhere. Even my stuff. My locker was turned upside down. My blankets were ripped off of my bed. Some stuff I ended up not getting back because it was so scattered through the dorm that nobody knew whose stuff belonged to who. It's not like we had an inventory list of what we owned, unless your name was on it. I lost most of my commissary, and the guards did the correctional officers. Let me correct that. The correctional officers did this in retaliation for an inmate speaking up about not being treated fairly. This is typically what would happen when you spoke up against staff doing it the proper way. Now, did the inmate do the wrong thing by speaking up? No, he did what was within his rights, but did everybody else pay the price for it? We did. Nobody was upset at Al. We all understood, but nobody could say anything. You can't do anything. So when people have this misconception that most inmates are being abusive towards staff, I'm not going to say that doesn't happen in some places, but I can tell you where I was at, 3,000 inmates on this compound. The typical average inmate was not being abusive towards staff. It was the other way around. Staff abused their power to no extent. They would talk down to you. And I understand staff is not there to be your friend. They're not there to be your buddy. They're there to police. They're there to keep things under control, but they are not there to they're not there to talk down and treat you lesser than and make you feel like you're not a human. They're held to a higher standard. They have this job because they're supposed to be able to maintain law and order. They're not there to bully us. On many occasions, specifically because I was in RDAP, I used to have correctional officers come up to me and look for a reason to give me a hard time, telling me I'm in the snitch unit. You know, because RDAP, we're there to hold each other accountable. We have to tell on each other for dumb shit. And you've got staff. It's bad enough you got to deal with that from other inmates on the compound. But now I have staff coming up to me going, "Oh, you got your bracelet on. You're an RDAP, or that means you tell on people, or you've got your lanyard." And they look for you like you're a target. They can't wait for you to mess up because a lot of the correctional officers weren't fans of the RDAP program. They don't think that it helps people. They think we're all in there just manipulating our way through the program to get the year off. Some people were, some people weren't. Some people started off manipulating their way through, and then the program started clicking in, just like me. The program started clicking in, and I started making better choices. I chose to never fire back at a correctional officer, but I can tell you there are some really good correctional officers that I can guarantee you aren't being laughed at right now. Most inmates are giving them respect because they got respect from the correctional officer. When you're constantly disrespected by somebody and now you have an opportunity to maybe take a jab, take a poke, you see them working on during a federal government shutdown and they're working for free and they're serving you chicken and steak. And during the holidays, we did eat chicken and steak, at least at Coleman. We had pretty decent food during the holidays. Federal prison overall, from what I've heard, has better food than what has going on in the state. And you can probably ask Jessica Kent about that. But when these inmates do fire back to a guard, there's immediate consequences. If you have a guard that comes up and starts disrespecting you and reprimanding you for no reason or yelling at you because you're an RDAP, if you were to raise your voice back or tell him to go fuck himself, there's consequences. You're going to get thrown to the shoe. You're going to get a shot. There's all kinds of reasons why you don't want to say anything. There's all reasons why you just sit there and take a beating. I chose to take those beatings because I wanted to get in and out of prison. I wasn't there to mess with anybody's time. I wasn't there to mess with my own time. But these correctional officers, a lot of them, if the ones that are getting teased right now about working for free, if they don't like what the inmates are saying to them, maybe you guys, correctional officers, maybe you want to go around and tell the other correctional officers, hey, if we stop berating these guys for no reason and making their lives extra hard for no reason, maybe they won't poke holes at us when they get an opportunity. But I can tell you right now, if I was sitting in the chow hall and I saw that CO that constantly harassed me day in and day out, and I saw him working for free, I would take a little bit of pleasure of him handing me my food, specifically on a holiday where he's got to be here and he's got to be away from everything he loves. And he has to finally feel a little bit of what it's like to be humiliated by somebody else. So I don't think it's completely unjust. I posted a link to a bunch of different articles that have posted comments on this. Did I miss a question?
No.
Yeah, state prison. Jessica Kent, she's talking about state because that's where she did her time. State prison, how bad it is. You know, I can only imagine state prisons, probably their food menu is probably a little more applicable to like what you would see in county jail. I know in county jail, I didn't want to eat. If it wasn't for commissary, I probably wouldn't have eaten anything. I mean, I'm sure you're there long enough, you're going to eat everything put in front of you. But the food, it looked like something you wouldn't probably serve a dog, and you couldn't tell what half the food was. That's why they had crazy names like mystery meat. You didn't know what you were eating. I remember eating, I thought it was supposed to be like meatloaf, and it was some kind of a mystery meat patty. And when I bit into it, there was like an air gas pocket, and it spilled this disgusting air pocket into my mouth. It was basically like a really, really gross fart sealed inside of this meat pocket. And when I bit into it, it was like getting a gross wet fart in my mouth that immediately made my face turn green, and I ran to the bathroom. And you know what the crazy thing is? I took one bite, wouldn't eat anything else. Somebody else was happy to take that off of my plate and eat the rest of it. And that's how hungry people get when you go without. So I'm not here to say that every staff member within the prison system is a scumbag or abusive. But I am here to say I saw on a regular basis in a very low security prison that was not a high threat for anybody, including the inmates or the staff. I would see the staff poke, waiting for somebody to snap so they would have a reason to go crazy on them. Usually it was staff. It was the staff that would start a lot of these issues for themselves. So now they're getting a little taste of what they've put out there. It's just the way it is. It's how it's going to go until this government shutdown is over. Look, you took a job. You knew if there's a government shutdown, you could go a period of time without getting paid. That's how this government works. And if you don't like it, write your congressman, just like you tell inmates that don't like people that don't like the laws that they're getting violated for, things that might send us to prison, or if you don't like it, write your congressman and start voicing your opinion. But if you're only going to bitch and complain when you get caught, just like we do on our channel here, we hold all of our clients go through a level of accountability where it's like, okay, do you deserve to go to prison? Maybe, maybe not. We're not here to decide that. But most of us can come to a determination that we probably made some poor decisions in life that allowed this to happen, why we're going now into this nasty cycle of the prison system. If we had focused on consequences earlier on, maybe we wouldn't be going to prison. And if the staff focused on consequences, what's going to happen if there's a day where the inmates have an upper hand? Am I going to be one of the people that the inmates come beat up on? Or am I going to be one of the guys going, that guy was cool, leave him alone? No one's saying you got to be cool. No one's saying you got to be the guy that's letting inmates do what they're not supposed to do. No one's saying you need to break rules for the inmates, but give the inmate respect. There's ways to respectfully say no. We used to have a small TV room in our dorm where 4 or 5 of us during movie night, we'd go in there and we'd watch movies, and the lights are supposed to stay on all the time. Some COs, correctional officers, they'd let us turn the lights off. Some wouldn't. Some were real dicks about it. Some were like, the way they would say no was extra. They were coming off extra cocky about it, where others were like, look, you know we can't do that. You're putting me in a bad position by even asking to do that. It's against policy. God forbid if my supervisor were to come in and he sees a bunch of inmates sitting in the dark, knowing God knows what, even though I know most of you guys are decent guys, you're not going to go in there and do anything, but I'm not going to put myself in that situation. Hope you can respect that. Some inmates might get pissed off about that, but at the end of the day, the average person, the average inmate in a federal prison system in a low security, you're not talking high-level thugs and criminals. Even in some of the penitentiaries and mediums, I've spoken to a lot of guys that have been to higher security levels, and respect is given to people that earn it. It's not just given because it's demanded. You know, you can either rule with fear or you can rule as a leader. You know, if you're not willing to rule as a leader and you're relying on your fear factor and your intimidation, that only works when you completely have the upper hand. When you no longer have the upper hand, something's probably going to happen, and it's not going to be into your best favor. And that goes on both sides of the spectrum. So I'm okay with some of these COs kind of getting a taste of what they did and what they brought on themselves. Problem is they won't see it that way. They're not going to see that they did anything to deserve this. They're going to say, well, inmates do this, inmates do that, and we have to treat them like this. No, you don't. You absolutely don't. All you're doing is giving them more of a reason to hate the system. We're trying to find a way to bridge that together, and that doesn't happen when side versus side never meets in the middle. COs could be doing things different. Inmates could be doing things different. And until we start focusing on that, this is going to be the problem that we have. So I was not a huge fan of correctional officers while I was in the prison system. What I took from it, from being as objective as possible, is here's a bunch of guys that want to be COs for the wrong reason. We would know for a fact they'd go on their breaks and they'd go over to there's a big house on the compound where a lot of them would use for parties and stuff. And they were allowed. This is what's fucked up, is I don't know about state. The Bureau of Prisons allows correctional officers on their break to have 1 beer. They're allowed to have 1. Now, the rumor is from like Shelly, so I don't want to say it's a rumor. From Shelly, I'm going to consider it a fact. Shelly worked in the camp, so her job a lot of the times was to go to this federal house, which was on the compound, and clean up, or sometimes even be the one serving some of these things, and she would see these guys drink several more than 1 beer and then go back to work. What job are you allowed to have 1 beer where you can go back to work, specifically where you're supposed to be overseeing individuals that technically could be criminals? Now you've got somebody with a couple of beers making some really irrational, poor decisions. So I've seen some pure scumbags in the prison system. I've seen plenty of scummy inmates as well, but I've definitely seen some scummy prison officials that should be feeling a little bit of the hot water right now. Did I miss any good questions here, Ches?
No, just a lot of comments. That's about it. Nothing. People like having lights off when they watch movies, but
what's that?
So people like having the lights off. But
yeah, when you're watching a movie, if anybody's watched a movie with the lights on, I mean, I guess it's better than no movie at all. And of course, we would all be like, yeah, that's cool. But we would ask, and there's no harm in asking. And if you have a correctional officer that's going to say yes, of course, you're going to go in there and turn the lights off. I can tell you, out of the 6 billion times they turned the lights off in there, not once did we ever do anything that we weren't supposed to do. There was nobody in the corner being gay when the lights weren't on. There was nobody in there doing drugs. There was nobody in there sneaking with their cell phone. We were very appreciative of the CO turning, and they didn't turn off all the lights. There was one light that would stay on, but it was more of like a very, very dim orangey light that gave a much better presence. You know, it's prison. You're not supposed to be too comfortable, but there was some staff that said, you know what, I'm at a low security, I'm in a non-threatening prison, if me making this decision can improve the lives of other individuals, even if it's for an hour and a half during a movie, why not? So there were some staff that I appreciate, and that if I saw on the street today, I'd want to shake their hand. There's other staff that if I saw on the street today, I can't say that I'd want to say anything. And if I was recognized and they're like, hey, weren't you at, I'd be like, yeah, you were the asshole that used to try to tell me I was a snitch for being in RDAP, and you hate this program, and you hope that we all come back, and none of us deserve it. I mean, to lump us all into that category, I'm actually going to do a video next week on my whole situation, because you know, I got a lot of blowback on Brian's channel, Bounce Back, for having a 5K1. And basically your 5K1 is a level of cooperation where if you're cooperating with the government, you can get a 5K1 for acceptance of responsibility and cooperating above and beyond. But there was nothing for me to cooperate on. That's what you guys don't understand. That's why I'm going to do a video on it, where I'm going to show you everybody's plea agreement that was on my case, and you'll see that I was the last person to take a plea. So anybody out there, anybody that's watching this video, I don't care who you are right now, I don't care. If you were facing 20 years and you were offered a 5K1 and it required you not to tell on anybody, if you say you wouldn't take it and you would go do your 20 years versus the 42 months, I'm going to call you a liar. Unless your family was going to be at risk or they were going to come murder your family. But if there was nobody to snitch on, there's nobody to tell on, and yet they were going to give you the same downward departure just for telling on yourself, saying you knew what you were doing was wrong at the time, and you tell me you weren't going to take it, bullshit. That's what I call. But that's just me. It's going on tomorrow. Just watching the time and hoping the first step helps my kids get out soon. You sent Tamara an email?
Not yet. I haven't forgotten about it, though.
CJ was actually just talking about you this morning, Tamara, so you should be getting an email from him.
Tina Stapleston, though, has commented on the food.
What'd she say?
Food that said not for human consumption. I've heard that before.
Okay, I've personally never, I mean, I've heard that rumor that a lot of the food says not for human consumption on that. I don't know that personally to be true. I've never witnessed it. And there might be some prisons that do have food that's not. Look, I would need to see it from my own eyes, because it seems like there would be lawsuits and everything else if there was something that said not for human consumption and they were serving it to human beings. I'm going to guess that's a myth until somebody proves me different. It's always somebody knows somebody that knew somebody that happened to, or, oh, this person dealt with it, this person told me. I've heard that rumor too. I'm not going to say it's a rumor or not a rumor. I don't know. I've never personally seen it, but I can tell you the food that we were eating in Coleman, I'm pretty sure it was built for human consumption, because it wasn't that bad. Some meals were better than others. Once in a while, like their hot dogs weren't the best. Their hot dogs were kind of gray and mushy. But I've seen some shitty hot dogs that you can go buy in the store that you're like, I would never want to eat this. You know, the prison's going to spend as little as they can on food. Now, when I was there, the food director at Coleman, he made it very clear that he wanted to do his best to use as much of the food budget as possible to buy good ingredients. And he was so, like, I can guarantee you, if he's still there, I can't remember his name, short, heavy set Spanish guy that was in charge of the food. He was like the main cook. He was not an inmate. He was an actual staff member there. He would come out on like soup day and stuff, and he would ask us, what do you think of the food? And I mean, he was really proud that he did what he could to improve the quality of the food for us low inmates. And to me, that went a long way, because he was trying. Was it the best food in the world? Absolutely not. Have I eaten worse? Sure have. But it was like a low quality Denny's food most of the time. You're in prison. How much complaining are you really going to do? And on the holidays, God, they give you turkey, and they give you ham, they give you fried chicken, they give you regular chicken, little Cornish hens, they've got desserts. So the food is not bad. And the problem is a lot of these stories that are circling around on like USA Today and stuff right now, that's not like that in every federal prison. There's plenty of guys that came to the prison that came from other spots. They were like, wow, the food here is really good. Hamburger day, at wherever prison they came from, they would say it was usually a little burnt piece of hockey puck with stale bread. Same meal, same menu, different quality. We would only get it toward the end of the year. So yeah, so it just matters where you are. But the whole issue about this is inmates are laughing at correctional officers and other staff because the staff is working on a federal government shutdown, and yet they're forced to feed and serve the inmates. Well, that is true. That's what you took on when you decided to take your job. You want the cushy federal prison job? It's not a high-risk job if you're working at a low. Your pay is probably not that bad. You've got great benefits. At the end of the day, you're going to go a couple weeks without pay. I would say learn how to budget better. Maybe, if you go without one paycheck and you're about to lose your shit, maybe your car is getting repossessed. I think it said Joe Rojas is getting ready to get his car approved to go be an Uber driver. See? There you go. Like the rest of the world, when your income doesn't meet your needs, you go pick up a second job, right? But when you have a government job and you know things like this could happen, where you could have a government shutdown that could last days, weeks, months, you better be prepared for a rainy day. You better have some savings put aside. Most people in America don't know how to save for a rainy day. So when you have a government job that you know this could happen and you get caught with your pants down and now you can't pay your rent, can't pay your car payment, can't pay whatever it is you got paying, just sounds like to me you didn't plan ahead and you didn't budget. That's what I take from this, because that's any job. You could lose your job tomorrow. I don't care who you are, who you work for. You could lose a job, and if you can't get to your next paycheck or you can't survive for a week or two, you're probably not budgeting properly, or maybe you're living beyond your means necessary. So reflect, look back at what you could be doing different, and that goes for government workers. It is what it is. We don't live in a fair world where everybody gets what they want when they want to get it. What else we got going on in here?
Yeah, no questions or anything. Just people talking to one another.
You guys got any questions for me before we roll out of here? Just checking some last minute questions here. Tamara, thanks for joining us. Adrian, thanks for joining us.
Jessica, thanks for joining us.
Jessica Kent, thanks for joining us. Go check out Jessica Kent's YouTube channel, guys.
I'll put a link in the description.
Okay,
Ches
put a link to Jessica's channel. She posts pretty steady. I'd say she's on YouTube at least once a day. She does a lot of live stuff, which is cool because you guys get to interact with her. But other than that, that's all I got for you guys. I just wanted to touch base on this real quick because it's just ironic that happens to be, this is where I served my time at Coleman, and it happens to be ironic that the tables got turned a little bit. The inmates finally had an opportunity for a moment with an upper hand, and of course they took advantage of it. You can't expect them not to when they're constantly being berated and beat down by the staff. So if everybody steps back and looks at this, what could be done differently? Staff, you're held to a higher expectation than inmates. You need to respect the authority you have and use it sparingly without making yourself out to be some kind of a hard-handed dictator that is only leading with assertive fear and not leading by example. If you're not willing to lead by example, you're a really bad leader. That's all I got for you guys. I'm RDAPDAN, Federal Prison Time Consulting. People helping people one day at a time, community as method. I will see you guys soon. Have a great day. Peace.